Hi everyone, welcome to another lecture with Harita Hive. So, this current session will be about understanding the very basics. It is a beginner level session. It would be about the very basics of GIS, about how what is a vector layer and how we can generate a vector layer in QGIS, in ARCGIS. So it would be more about the practical session about understanding the very basic features in GIS that is called as vector features. Okay. So as you all might be knowing, a geographic information system is a powerful tool that captures, stores, analyzes and visualizes geographic data. What GIS is actually mean is, remote sensing and GIS go hand in hand. Remote sensing is actually the art or science of capturing the surface imagery, right? And to make that data from that imagery valuable, to make it more analyzable, to perform functions on it, it is a part of GIS. That is, you are making the use of that raw data that you extracted from remote sensing, and you are using it to perform some kind of analysis. So this latter part of this definition is called as GIS. Now, the important part is, for example, I would like to give an example. If you use Google Maps, how do Google knows about the roads and everything? Do you think someone actually created all of them by manual work? No, it is all being extracted from the raw data. So they have employed some programming codes, and they have employed some algorithms, because of which they are able to convert the raw satellite data into what you see in Google Maps. Okay. Now, the data in when you are actually getting the raw data from remote sensing, it is in the form of a raster. Okay. But in GIS, we generally are using the converted form of it. That is, we first try to create some vectors out of it, or we try to convert it into a vector. Okay. And then we do some analysis on it. So, the GIS data comprises of two things. One, the spatial data and the attribute data. The spatial data, it is the data that represents the location and the shape of the geographic feature of Earth in GIS system. I will explain what it means. And then the second thing is attribute data. We will come back to this slide. So if you see in this slide, below is a raster data, above is a vector data. A vector data is what we mostly use in GIS formats. We have three kinds of vector data. The difference between a vector and raster is, a raster is a continuous data, whereas a vector is it can be a non-continuous data. It is not defined at every point, whereas raster has to be defined at all of the points. So we have the imagery, that is a raster, that is the real world manifestation of it, and then that data is converted into vector data. Okay. Now, if you see here, just a moment. If you see here, we have point, line, and polygon. These are three different types of differentiated models in vector. We can either create a point. So for example, you want to know all the schools in a city. So you can mark a point on the map, right? Similarly, a line. A line can be used to represent a network data. So for example, if you are making a road, maybe you are pointing out the road from one place to another. You can create a road. So this represents a line. Whereas it can be a channel of rivers, a channel of something that can be displayed in a network form. Then we have the polygon. So it is the third type of the feature type. So it is mostly representing an area. So the basic definition about point, line and polygon is: point represents something moreover like location, but it does not actually have a length and area to it. Whereas a line also represents some geographical feature, but it does not have area defined to it. Whereas polygon, it has both length and area defined to it. Okay. Now we will today try to create these vector, line and polygon. The very basics. It is for someone who has no idea how to create these three in QGIS, in ARCGIS, how to actually uh, form this data in QGIS or ArcGIS. So now, as we know that vector layer can be point, line and polygon, right? So first of all, let us open our QGIS. Now there is something called as base map. What is a base map? Actually, when you work with spatial data, sometimes it is important that you have something, a layer like in the back. So what if I have a world map in the back? What if I have the world satellite imagery in the back? That is called as a base map. So in QGIS, you have many ways to open a base map. So there is this browser panel in QGIS. If you look for this XYZ tile in this browser panel, you will find there are 4 to 5 options here. Okay. So maybe some of the options are not available in your QGIS. It depends on the version of QGIS that you are using. So just see, you have OpenStreetMap here, you have Google Maps here, you have Google Satellite Maps here. Most of you might be familiar with what a Google Map is, what a Google Satellite Map is. Similarly, there are other sources of map also. So there is a map that is from Mapzin. It is Mapzin Global Terrain. There is another map that is called as OpenStreetMap. So let me show you how in this interface a base map opens. So what if I double click on this Google Satellite? So I have the Google Satellite imagery of all the world here. Now I can zoom into any area. I can look out at any area, right? Similarly, the layer will show up here. I can remove it again. If I can add another layer. So maybe there is something called as OpenStreetMap. Let me double click it. And the OpenStreetMap layer has been added here. So just zoom into any city, just try the practical. So for example, if I zoom into this city in the north of India, that is Chandigarh. It is a planned city, so you can see the city's structure is quite planned. The architecture is quite planned. And if I zoom in, you can see some of the buildings also. So these are some, maybe these are some offices or houses, but they have been, they are visible here. Okay. So the first thing is, for example, my boss, if I'm working as a GIS analyst or maybe for some other analyst purpose, maybe I have to create some points here. Maybe I need to create one point for every house. So how to create a point layer in a QGIS? It is very simple. There is this option of layer here in the QGIS. simply go to layer, move to create layer and click on new shapefile layer. So this dialog box will appear. So this is the first basic step for all the three: point, polygon and line. You have to select this new shapefile layer. I will again repeat. You have to simply go to layer, create layer and new shapefile layer. In this new shapefile layer, for example, we are creating point. So just name it something that is of, for example, if maybe you can name it something that is more meaningful. For example, we are marking the houses here. Okay, so maybe I can say house points. So depending on your data, you have to make the name. Now there is an option here that says geometry type. It is an important option because it is the main differentiation where you have to select whether it is a point, a line or a polygon. So in our case, we are going to create points, right? So in geometry type, I will go and I will select a point. Now there is something called as attributes. Now I will create an attribute. Maybe you don't understand for now what an attribute is, but just observe the process, and in the later part of the video I will explain what an attribute is. There is also something called as the coordinate system. So if you have attended one of our classes about the coordinate system, you must be knowing that there are two kinds of coordinate system. One is geographic coordinate system and one is the projected coordinate system. So both of them are available to you here, and based on your location you have to select the coordinate system, or based on the kind of analysis that you are doing, we choose the coordinate system. For now we will just let it to be the normal one, that is the default one, that is the WGS 84. It is the most common coordinate system that is used, right? Now let me add a field to this one. Let me call it house number, right? And because I know house number is not a string, that is, it is not a alphabetical value, it is a integer value. House number is either 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Something like this. So I will choose it as a integer, and I have to click this part, that is add to field list. So I have just created one attribute. Now let me press OK. So to add a point to this base map, what you do is to create a point layer, you will find this editing option here, this thing that looks like a pencil. You have to first select your layer. If I select this layer, this option will disappear. If I have another vector layer here, so it is important that you choose your layer here. Once you choose your layer, click on this editing option, and just on the right of it you will find another option, that is add point feature. So it will be only enabled once this is enabled. So first you have to open on the editing option and then adding the point option. So click on it, and now for example let it be maybe house number 1, right? So I click here, and if you remember, ID was there by default and I added the point house number 1. So it can be house number 1, or maybe let us call it as house number 1A. Okay, so because we put the type as integer, I cannot add the value A here. So let it be just house number 1. The students who are watching it live, if you come across any questions or any doubts, just you can ask in the live chat. Okay, so this is the house number 1, and you see a point will be added here. Similarly, I can add another point. Now maybe I will call it house number 2. I will call it house number 3. So if you see, I have just added 3 points here, and if I turn this editing mode off, it will ask that should I make the changes, and if you want to make the changes you need to save, otherwise it will not be saved. So I earlier said something about attributes, right? Visually you are able to see these points here, but there is some textual data added to these points. So if you open this, if you right click on this, there is this option that is called as open attribute table. I will click on it and you will see that I can find the information regarding these 3 points here. That is the ID number, house number, ID2, house 2, ID3, house 3, right? So there is also an option to label these points. In QGIS we also have this option to label these points. So just if I again right click on it, you can see here show labels. Either you can click and show label from here, but if you want to be sure whether in the label it will be selecting the ID or the house, you can also go to properties, and in properties you will find this labels. So in labels you need to go and select the data that you want to represent. So first labels and then single label, and in this single label there is an option here that is value. Which value is that you want to represent on your data? So I want to represent the house number, not the ID number. So in our general case, maybe our case house number and ID is same, but generally that will not be the case. Okay, so just simply click on apply and you will see the data got labeled. The house number is available here now, 1, 2 and 3, right? Now, as I said, once creating the file, I was able to add the attribute, that was the house number. What if I want to add more attributes to it? Then how can I add more attributes to it? So to do that, there is one simple way. You can right click here and again go to the attributes. Now I want to add a new column here. Maybe I want to add the total number of people living here. Maybe I want to add the owner of the house. Okay, either you could have done it when you were creating this point layer, right? That I showed you, that I created this house number field. Or what you can do is, there is this layer that is called as there is this option that is called as open field calculator. So just simply click on it and you will find here an option to create a new field. So maybe I want to create a new field that is number of people So because there is a limit to the title, maybe I'll just use this short form. So I will just say number of people. Okay. Now number of people can be integer. It does not needs to be a decimal. It will not be in a point. It is not a textual data. So you can again select the integer. Okay. And you will find here the option that is in field and values. This is an inbuilt expression option here. You will find the field and values. In field and values, just double click on null. Okay. So, and simply apply. So what happens is, there is a field added here, number of people, right? So similarly, you can add as many as fields. And what if I want to make some entry to it? Maybe I am clicking here and I can say in house number 1, 4 people are living. In house number 2, maybe 3 people are living. In house number 3, maybe 6 people are living, right? And simply, if there is this editing option again here, if I simply click it, it will ask me to save it. And now the attributes that are associated with my data have changed. Earlier it was just ID and house number. Now this time I have ID, house number as well as number of people. Now for our particular purpose, I want to show some analysis. For that I will be adding 2 more columns here. Okay. So let us add 2 more fields. One is the name of the head. Or I could just write the head. So the head, the person who is the head in charge in that house, right? Like the father or the grandfather or anyone. Okay. So his name would be probably in a text. Okay. So again I will go to field and values and I will add null and apply. So maybe let me add some fictional name. Let me assume some names. Maybe in house number 1, the head of the house name is Raj. In the house number 2, it is Shubham. And in house number 3 is Ali. And let me add one more thing, that is the occupation of the head. Or maybe we can add number of cars. So I'm adding the option that is number of cars in that house. So let me say the number of cars with the person living in house number 1 is 2, and there is no car with people living in house number 0 or 2, and for 3 they have again maybe 1 car, right? So I will just click on it and I can save. So this becomes the informational data of my shapefile. I had a point file and this turned out to be additional information of this file. So as I said, your data is associated with 2 kinds of data. One is the spatial data, that is the visual that you are seeing, that is the location that you are seeing. And then is the attribute data, that is the information attached to your data. Okay. So we created the points. Now let me showcase you the line, how we can create a line, how we can create a polygon. So I will again go to layer, I will create layer, new shapefile layer. This time I will select the file name as line. Again, the geometry type needs to be a line string. Click on simply OK. Now there is one important thing while I create a line. So similarly to point, just go to this editing option and then again you will find this add line feature. Earlier it was add point feature. Whichever you think you are creating, it will be changed by that name. So this time it is add line feature. Once I click on it, I can generate line like this. So wherever I will double click, or if I right click, it will stop. So if you see, the line has been generated. Okay. Now we can change the symbology of it so that it looks better. So there is something called as symbology. So I'm selecting I want to increase the width of this line. Okay. So I would simply go to this line, select this line feature, click on properties, and in properties you can find the color. Maybe let us make the color a little dark. I can increase the size of the width of the line. Maybe let us increase it to 0.66. So if you can see, the line is here. Now there is one very important feature here, that whenever you are creating lines or whenever you are creating polygons, there is a concept of snapping. Now what happens, for example, if I'm creating another line, I want to create one more line. Now how can I be so sure that it joins it? I want to join that line to this point. It will not be sure. So for example, if I join it here, and if I zoom it into here, you will see there is a break. It actually didn't join. So this might create some kind of errors for us. So there is an option that how you can, but if you look it from another zoom level, you will feel that there is a joint, but actually there is no joint. So this might create some problems. Okay. So to rectify this, what you can do is, there is this thing here that is called as enable snapping. To in some of your QGIS, it might be not readily available here. What you can do is just simply right click on this empty space, and you will find in this the option of snapping toolbar. So if I turn it off, it disappears. So you need to turn this snapping on. So once you enable this snapping, what happens is, whenever you move over a point, it will show this color. So that means whenever you create a new line, you can be sure that it is connected to the older line. So this time if I want to create, so now they are joined. So I can this time create lines with perfect joints. So simply use this snapping feature. So I hope now you understand how line feature can be created. You can add attributes to it. Okay. Now let me create a polygon layer. We have already created the line, the point. Now it is turn for the polygon. So if I go and create again, go to layer and create a layer, and this time I want to create a polygon layer. So polygon, and select the type as polygon. Now if you remember, we added some attribute information to point. Let me add some attribute information to the polygon also. So first let me have a look at what it was in the point. So we added let me take a screenshot of it. Now suppose we are creating another layer that is a polygon. Geometry type as polygon. Now in this I put some fields, but I add one field that is common to point also. So for example, maybe I add the field here as head. So which is common in both now? Head is also there in the point field, and I add head here. It is a text added to field. Now for example, if I also add the occupation here, occupation of the head, add to field, maybe some other data like if I want to maybe add some other data, number of we already added the number of members in the point. So let us just work with this one only, head and occupation. Now occupation is an additional field. It was not available in the points, right? So just simply click on OK. Now when I click on the editing feature and I want to add a polygon, so make sure snapping is on. So if snapping is on, once you create one polygon, so this is house number 1. So to end it, you can just right click and you get ID 1. The name of the head of this house was Raj. And let me say Raj is a lawyer. Okay. Now snapping is on, because of which I am able to actually create accurate another box. If it was not, I would have not been able to confidently join to this point. So if I want to create another box now, I can simply click when it is this pink color. So this is another polygon. Right click and ID 2. The head of this house was Shubham. Shubham is a pilot. Then I add the third polygon. ID 3. The head of this house was Ali. His occupation is maybe an engineer. Okay. Now I have successfully created these polygons. I will save them. Now I have added some attribute data to both of the polygon as well as the house point. Now there is a reason I want to show you how data can be used in. So if you see, we have two different attributes. One refers to the house points, one refers to the polygon. The only thing common, just ignore ID for a while. The only thing common here is the name of the head, that is Raj, Shubham and Ali. So what if you are working as a GIS analyst, your boss gives you a layer which has maybe 1 lakh points. It has 1 lakh points. So our point layer has three points. Maybe you are given a layer which has 1 lakh points. Okay. And then he gives you another layer, that is the polygons. It also has 1 lakh points. Now your boss says, I want that the house number, number of people and number of car, this data to be added to this polygon layer also. For 3 you can do it manually. You can create one field, you can put the name and you can add it. But what about 1 lakh points? You have to convert the data from these 1 lakh points to this 1 lakh polygon. Can you do it? No, it will be manually impossible. So there is an option here. So if you see, if I right click on this demo in properties, you will find something called as joins. So we will try to join the attributes based on a common attribute. So simply click on this join, click on the plus. Now which layer is that I want to join with my polygon? That is the house points. The field on which I want to, the common field, okay, which is the common field? That is the head. Which is the target field? It is also the head also. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the data from house points and I'm going to put it in the polygon. So if you wanted to do vice versa, you could have just clicked on house points, its properties, and then joins, right? Now there is this option here which says custom field name. So the new layers that will be added from this point layer to this polygon layer, it will have the prefix house underscore points. You can change it to something else. You can check and change it, right? Join fields, if you click here, it will show you which fields you can import from here. If you want to import some particular fields, maybe number of cars, or maybe you want to just import number of people, okay, not all the fields. If you don't want to import all the fields, if you want to import all the fields, just keep it unchecked, okay. Now simply click on OK and apply and OK. So now when I go to my polygon demo and open the attribute layer, what you will see is the data from this point layer has been added to my data in the polygon. Now I have this data in my polygon. Now you can see from house points I extracted the ID, from house points I extracted the house number, the number of people living in that house, right? All of the data, the occupation was already here only. So this is how actually join works. For join you need to have a common layer between both, and you can get the data from one field, from one feature file to another. It can be done between a point and file. It can be done between any two intersecting entities. So what is important here is that these points were within this polygon. If this point has to be outside this polygon, this join will not happen. It will only happen when the data is inside of the other data, when this feature is inside of the other feature. So for example, if I create a line, if I create a straight line like this, and it has some features, I want the polygon to extract it, the line should be inside of it, not intersecting it, not outside of it. It should be inside of it. Got that point? Anyone has any doubts until now? You can let me know. So now there is one other thing also. So for example, this is a polygon, right? If I want to extract the area of this polygon, how can I do that? If I want to calculate the area of this polygon, there is a simple thing that you can do is just go to the attributes of it again. So just go to the attributes of it again and add another, from the field calculator, add another field, that is create a new field, call it area, and this time instead of integer, area is in decimals, right? Select decimal. Now because the area is based on the geometry, in this QGIS we have this option that is called as geometry. You will find it here. Select geometry and you will find this option $area. So just double click on it and apply. So you will see that the area has been added. Okay. Similarly, if it is a line string, you can add dollar length, right? Dollar perimeter. So, okay. Now, this is all about creating these line points and line points and polygons in QGIS. Now we'll move on to ArcGIS. So if you have any doubts in this, you can just let me know. I'll discard this project for now. Now in ArcGIS Pro, if you just give me a minute, I'll open the door. In ArcGIS Pro, the methodology is exactly same, but the options are somewhere else, right? So you need to get familiar to the options of ArcGIS Pro as well as QGIS, right? So by default, when you open the ArcGIS Pro, you get a base map. So we have this world topographic map. You can zoom into any area. For example, I'm zooming again into Chandigarh. Now to change a base map, if you see on the top in this ribbon, you will find something called as base map. Just simply click, and if you want to change the base map, you can click on different kinds of base map. So for example, I just clicked on image hybrid. So this is a hybrid map. So maybe if I want a navigational or something else, maybe a dark theme map. So different maps are available to us. So for our current analysis, we'll just choose the simple navigation or navigation map. Now, as I said, if I want to create some polygon, the vector features. Now what I can do in ArcGIS, you need to first locate this. In the view section of this, you need to locate your catalog pane. Once you click on catalog pane, this thing will appear. This is your catalog pane. Okay. Pane is like panel. Okay. So in this catalog pane, you will find this databases. You expand the database, and this is the current project's database. You right click on this database and go to new and click on feature class. Okay. So in this feature class, you can define what you want to create, either a point, a line, or a polygon. So once you name it, if you choose the option here, so for example, if first I choose a point, simply I click next, next. Just a moment. Okay, so I named it as point demo. Earlier the finish option was not appearing because I already had created a point file in it. So I changed the name. Now it is point demo. So I'll select point and click on this finish at the bottom. So once I click finish, I have to go to my edit ribbon. Click on this edit, click on create, and then you will find your point demo here. So if I click on this point demo, then my editor will get activated. So I can just click anywhere and it will add a point. So I can click and add points. Now, if you want to add attributes to it, what you can do is simply first save it, right click on it, open the attribute table. So the attribute table is here. So currently there is just ID and the shape. Maybe if you want to add house number, so you can just click add, and maybe I'm adding the house number. So select the house number. It can be it is an integer, right? So once you add, just simply click on this cross and it will ask you to, it will give the dialog box, save it. So once you save it, so for example, the points I already created, I didn't add the house number, right? So I can now just simply go and directly add the house number here. And when I will create a new point, for example, if I have this point demo, so I create this new point, and at that very moment I can directly add the house number. And once you have to finish it, save it, just click on this finish button and save it. Right now your points and your data is saved. Similarly, you do it for the line and the polygon. Now for example, let us create polygons. Again, I have to go to my catalog pane. So you will find the options here, or you can directly go again here. So in my catalog pane, I will right click, create a new feature class, call it polygon. Select the feature class type as polygon. If you want to give it, if you don't want the default coordinate system, you can just simply click on next and again next. You will find the coordinate system here. You can click on it. You have the coordinate system in this box right here. You can change to something else if you want. Okay, so for example, if you want to change it to UTM, this is available here, or you can just leave it to be the WGIS 1984 and simply click on finish. Now to create, again go to edit and click on create. And in this create, instead of point demo, this time you have to select the polygon. So once polygon is selected, in polygon, for example, there is the snapping option is available here. You have to click it and activate it. So it gets activated. If so, right now it is not activated. If you click it, it will get activated. So it is better whenever you are digitizing, turn on your snapping option. So just click, and once you want to finish, right click, and there is this option called as finish. Right? So because I had snapping turned on, when I move it to here, you can see I get a attachment option. If the snapping was not on, I would not have gotten this option, and which would have made it very difficult to attach to it. So just click on snapping, and you can create the next polygon. So similarly to polygon also, you can add the attributes. Just simply click on the attributes. You have the shape area here also. Sometimes if you don't have area, what you can do is just click on area, add a new layer, area, choose double. Double is similar, double and float are very similar to decimal. So whenever you are choosing decimal, you want to choose decimal, you can choose float or double. Okay, so if I choose double here, though we have already the shape area, but I'm showing you how to calculate the area for a polygon in ArcGIS Pro. Now simply right click on it and you will find calculate geometry. In this calculate geometry, you will find the option of area, and in property you will find area geodesic. Click on that and then it will show you the area units. That is, you want the area in square kilometers, square meters. Simply select. So for example, this is a small area, we will be selecting square meters. Choose the coordinate system, otherwise it will choose the default coordinate system of the map. Okay, and simply apply. So if you see, the area has been added here. Now the area here and here is different because this is in maybe miles or some square. This is in meter square. Okay, so we have the area added. So this is some of the basics that you can do in QGIS, ARCGIS. In the next class, we will try to understand some options. For example, there are some things that you can do is union, intersect, identity, clip, dissolve, and merge. So in tomorrow's session, we will try to create buffer, merge, dissolve, clip, identity, intersect, and union. Okay. So if you have any doubts, just let me know. Otherwise, we'll meet in the next section. So if you are a very beginner to the GIS, I would suggest you to practice it a lot. You will get your hands on, because the main thing is getting familiar with the software. If you get familiar with the software, that is how you will get to be a good analyst. So these are the most two dominant softwares in the industry, ArcGIS Pro as well as QGIS. So if you want to enter the domain of this GIS industry, I would highly suggest that you should be very proficient with QGIS. At least basic digitization is very important if you want to make your first steps into the industry. Okay. And if you have any more doubts, or if you want to understand any theoretical part that we are building our practicals upon, you can connect to us at haritahive.com. Okay, so we will see you in the next session. Thank you for connecting with us.